Hello and welcome to the FATBOSS Guide to Gara'Jal the Spiritbinder 25 Heroic in the Mogu'Shan Vaults.
Yes, this fight is very, very similar, and it's just a fucking huge DPS race.
Yeah, if you thought 25-man normal was hard, this one, yeah.
You're going to constantly hit in rage on progression, seriously.
Yeah.
But either way, if you don't know the normal mode tactic, then please do click up on the screen now to the annotation, and this will take you over to the normal mode, because we're not going to be covering all the mechanics of normal mode, because it's all very, very similar.
Now for this encounter, you want to bring 2 tanks, 4 healers, and a mixture of DPS. And the changes on Heroic is that the Voodoo Dolls do 100% of damage, rather than 70%. So if, for example, a tank takes 100k damage, then the other people with Voodoo Dolls will also take 100k damage.
Now this basically means you have to have good tanks. You can't just rely on your healers to do this. You actually need to have incredibly good tanks. They need to be very good at rolling their cooldowns and also get in the raid to help with everything they possibly can. Well, you just need to have a very good rotation, which you can sort out with your individual raid comp. There's also a change to banishment. Basically, there are 3 Sever of Souls in the Spirit Realm instead of the 1. Now 3 of these are visible to the tank and 2 are visible to the DPS. Now the tank can, in theory, kill all 3 Severers by himself. However, the DPS that are inside the realm at the time should at least dot up the other ones and be prepared to nuke them down if the tank is behind, because of course he only has 30 seconds to kill all 3 of these adds, and if he hasn't got high movability like a warrior or something, he might struggle with it. It is also important to communicate with the DPS as a tank to which ones they can see, so of course you don't go and kill the ones they can see and then you need help with the last one and they can't see it. So just make sure, it's good to also put markers down, because then they always spawn in 3 set locations. So just put those markers down and then the DPS inside will be able to call which ones they can or cannot see.
Now once you actually leave the Spirit Realm by getting healed up to full health with the extra action button, that works exactly the same. However, when you leave, you get a 30-second debuff that prevents you from going in the realm again.
Well, you can go in, you just insta-die.
Yeah, you'll instantly die. So yeah, you don't want to go in again. And this is more annoying than anything else, as it sort of leaves you with less flexibility on who can actually go inside and who can't. And obviously the Voodoo Dolls prevent people from going in as well, so it does narrow down the amount of people that can and can't go in at a time.
Especially with this amount of healers. You only have like 4 healers because of the DPS race.
Now, to get into the tactics of this encounter, one big misconception is that if DPS go inside and get the intervention buff, they'll actually do more damage to the boss. Although this is true, it doesn't actually give you more damage than you just sitting on top of the boss and nuking your tits off, because the enrage timer is so short. So DPS going in is actually a DPS loss directly on the boss. So you need to make sure that you only go in there as a DPS when you need to kill shit.
And because of this, what you do is, out of 3 totems, so say there's 3 totems in a rotation, you only want to be taking 2 of them as part of DPS groups, so that's 4 DPS and 1 healer.
And obviously these groups will take care of killing the adds, and it will take care of killing the Severed Souls.
So the totems that you do want to take as those groups are the 1st and the 3rd totems, if you see it as a rotation of 3. So you would take the 1st totem that spawns, then leave the 2nd one, and then going for the 3rd one, and then take the 1st one again. So it just goes round and round like that, leaving the 2nd totem each and every time. And the reason that you want to do this is because the tank generally tends to be banished after every 3rd totem. So you've got to make sure that your DPS are in there in order to help him out with dealing damage to those Severers of Souls. Now you are left over with 1 extra totem, and this 1 extra totem is purely for your healers. Now there's only certain circumstances where you can really go in here as a healer. Basically, you can't go in if you're needed for the next group, of course, because you're going to have the debuff on you. And so if you're not needed for the next couple of groups, then you can go in to get all your mana back, and literally you just run over, get your ranged DPS to quickly dart it up so it eventually dies. Go in, fully heal yourself, get all your fucking mana back, come out, and then spam your tits off again. Now, in regards to who you really want to be sending into the Shadow Realm, you really want to be looking at classes that can multi-dot to shit. So things like Shadow Priests, Warlocks, things like that. Melee aren't really that great because, of course, they can't dot up 2 Several Souls at a time. So multi-dotters are really, really good for going inside the Shadow Realm to deal damage.
So just to cover the totems very, very briefly, just so you completely understand, is that the DPS are only going in there to kill the adds and to kill the Severed Souls. You're not going in there to get the buff. The buff isn't important. It's almost irrelevant. Just completely forget about the buff. The buff is only important for your healers. And if you don't need to go in there, and there is a totem that has just spawned, and there is a healer that needs mana, the healer should just go in there on his own, and ranged DPS should nuke the totem. And then the healer goes in, heals himself up, gets the fuck out, and starts healing again, because damage needs to be on the boss, not on anything else, unless those other targets are going to kill you. Now, as we said before, this fight is just a massive DPS race more than anything else. And one thing that you really want to look at doing just to get that extra bit of DPS is having healers DPS on the pull, mainly on the pull. And Resto Druid's obviously very good at this with Heart of the Wild, although it was recently nerfed. It's not as strong as it was, but it's still very decent and still does give you that extra bit of damage. The same with Disc Priest, they're very strong at damage.
Because literally you are going to be wiping when the boss is on like 5 mil HP, and like that extra damage at the beginning can make or break a kill. So it's really worth looking into. Now, around 30%, you want to activate Bloodlust and stop going in the Spirit Realm. Just try and clear up as many ads as you can before you go in across into this phase, just like you would do a normal. And you just nuke the boss as hard as you can using raid-wide cooldowns and any personal cooldowns left to minimize the amount of damage you're going to be taking from all these new ads spawning, as well as like everyone going to be taking a fuck ton of damage from Voodoo Dolls, the people who have Voodoo Dolls anyway.
And the boss is obviously hitting a lot quicker and a lot harder, so... And I mean, there are various things you can do if you are hitting the Enrage. I mean, you can think about dropping another healer and going to even 3 healers. It has been 3 healed before, but that is like mega hard.
Your healers have to be shit hot, and you can't really afford. If any RNG hits you, 2 healers, Voodoo Doll, GG. It doesn't allow for much freedom, but. If it gets to the point where your DPS is that shit, you might want to find new DPS anyway. Yeah, so as we said, you're most likely to hit the Enrage many times on this fight while progressing. Literally, you're going to have hundreds of bloody wipes where you're like 1% HP off. Like, even in this footage, they die as the boss dies. So, it is really as close as that. It'll become easier and easier as you get more and more gear, of course, but that's practically the fight. So thanks for watching, guys. If you did like this guide, then please do give us a thumbs up. It does help us out quite a lot. And make sure to comment, rate, and subscribe.
And if you'd like to see more 25-man heroic guides by FATBOSS, please do click up on the annotation you see on your screen now.
Thank you for watching.
Thanks for watching.